So here's the video, part 2 of this jazz piano arrangement of Help Lovin Dat Man, the great standard from Showboat that just recently came into the public domain. Here, in part 2, I'm going to present a pretty straightforward technique for reharmonizing chords, and then I'm going to apply that to this song. If you haven't already watched part 1 of this video, and you'd like to see me create a piano arrangement of this song with the original chords, go ahead and click the link to part 1. Also, if you'd like a copy of all of these arrangements, follow the link in the description. Okay, let's get started. In this reharmonization technique, we're going to take each of the standard chord types and then consider what some of the alternative chords could be. So for example, we'll take a major 7 chord, and we'll do this all with chords built on the root tone C, just to make it a little easier. This is a C major 7. Now, if we take the fact that there are 3 pitches here, E, G, and B, that also are part of an E minor 7 chord, we can see that these are awfully similar. Also, if we can see that there are pitches C, E, and G that are also part of an A minor 7 chord, we can see that this chord is also very similar to this. So these become 2 of our standard subs. To think of this information in a general way, go up a major 3rd and write a minor 7 chord, or go down a minor 3rd and write a minor 7 chord. If you start with a minor 7 chord, like C minor 7, and if you go up a minor 3rd and write a major 7 chord as an E flat major 7, you've got a chord that has 3 of the exact same notes. And if you go down a major 3rd and write A flat major 7, you've got another chord that has 3 of the exact same notes, C, E flat, and G here. So to generalize this information, think up a minor 3rd and write a major 7 chord, or think down a major 3rd and write a major 7 chord. Now if you start with a dominant chord, like C7, but do one alteration to this chord, lower the 5th so that it's C7 flat 5. So we're going to change the G to G flat. And the reason we do that is because if you take this chord now and go a tritone higher, remember a tritone is a diminished 5th or an augmented 4th, in this case an F sharp or a G flat, and we'll write an F sharp 7 chord. That's a dominant chord above that tritone interval. But we'll make the same alteration that we did to this chord. We'll take the 5th, which in this case is C sharp, and lower it. And we'll call it F sharp 7 flat 5. Of course, the flat means to lower it, not necessarily just put a flat on it. And so the new chord is F sharp, A sharp, C natural, and E. And check it out. Note for note, this chord is the same as this chord. F sharp is the same as G flat. A sharp is the same as B flat, C is the same as C, of course, and E is the same as E. This is what we call tritone substitution. It's very common that when you see a dominant chord, you could substitute in another chord that's another dominant chord at the tritone away. At this point, I'd like to go back to what we talked about with a minor 7 chord. Sometimes with a minor 7 chord, we will substitute in a dominant 7 chord on the same root. So instead of C minor 7, we just write C7. And that's really common, especially if a minor 7 chord is being played in the context of a circular progression, like a 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 progression, or a 6, 2, 5, 1 progression. Often those minor 7 chords will be transformed into dominant chords, which are actually secondary dominant chords, and they work quite well in the music. And of course, if we do that, we can also use the typical substitution that we learned with the dominant chords, where we substituted in a chord that was a tritone away. So we'll do that again here. A tritone would be F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and E, F sharp 7. So we've enhanced this category of possible substitute chords for a minor 7 chord. Up a minor 3rd with a major 7 chord, down a major 3rd to a major 7 chord, the same root tone, turning it into a dominant chord, or up a tritone to a dominant 7th chord. Less common, but we should be prepared for this as well, since it actually is in the piece that we're looking at, is a minor 6 chord. This is the chord C minor 6th, a minor triad with the major 6th interval. Notice that if we just rearrange these notes and put the A as the root, it's the exact same chord note for note, except we can call it an A half diminished 7. So we could use as a substitute for a C minor 6, a chord, a minor third lower, that's a half diminished chord. Another possibility is to change the root of this chord to an F, and then again write the same pitches, A, C, E flat, and G. And here we have an F9 chord. Again, very similar to the C minor 6 chord, but with a different root. And that works as a very good substitute for a minor 6 chord. To generalize this information, think of the chord a perfect fourth higher and write a dominant ninth chord. And our last chord type is the fully diminished 7 chord. Here we'll write a C fully diminished 7 chord, which is a C, E flat, G flat, and B double flat, which is a little tough on the spelling. Sometimes people will just enharmonically respell that as C, E flat, G flat, and A. It's the same pitches enharmonically. Now it just so happens that the pitches of a fully diminished 7 chord are the upper pitches of a dominant flat 9 chord. Let me show you what I mean by that. For example, if we start on the pitch D, and I'll do this in the bass clef, and build a D7 flat 9 chord, I would get D, F sharp, A, C, and E flat. Notice the upper notes of the D7 flat 9, note for note, are the same as this C diminished 7 chord. The C is here, the E flat is here, the G flat, got it as an F sharp, and the A. So the D7 flat 9 becomes a possible substitute for C diminished 7. Not only that, but now I can take dominant 7 flat 9 chords that are built up in minor third intervals from this original one, 4 different ones, and they all will have the same quality. Let me show you what I mean. Instead of starting on the pitch D, let's go up a minor third and start on the pitch F and write an F7 flat 9. We have F, A, and I'll put these notes in the G clef, C, E flat, and G flat. And notice again, we've got the A, the C, the E flat, and the G flat, right from the original C diminished 7 chord. That's starting on the pitch F. If again we go up a minor third, this time to A flat, 7, flat 9. Watch me build this chord. A flat, C, E flat, G flat, and B double flat. That's the flat 9, a little tough on the spelling there. But we can see right here very clearly that we have it for the upper 4 notes of the A flat 7 flat 9 is exactly the same as the C diminished 7, and that's building it on A flat. And if we go up another minor third, instead of C flat, we'll build it off of a B. This is B, D sharp, F sharp, A, and C. We have a B7 flat 9 chord, again, enharmonically spelled, but note for note the same. D sharp is the E flat, F sharp is the G flat, A, and C. So we've got 4 different dominant 7 chords here that could be substitutes for a C fully diminished 7. Probably the best way to remember that is just to go up a whole step from the diminished 7 chord, right? That C to D is a major second. Build the dominant 7th chord and then continue up in minor third intervals. This itself actually is a diminished chord, D, F, A flat, B, and that might help you to remember the roots of those 4. And there's our complete list of substitutions. Here's a chart that summarizes everything that we talked about. In the left-hand column are the original chords, and to the right are the possible substitutions given by the interval from the original chord and the chord quality. We'll use this chart as we go ahead and reharmonize Can't Help Lovin Dat Man. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the concepts that I learned about reharmonization now on this piece, Can't Help Lovin Dat Man. So, for a major 7 chord, I'm going up a major third and writing a minor 7 chord, or I'm going down a minor third and writing another minor 7 chord. For a minor 7 chord, I'm going up a minor third and writing a major 7 chord, or down a major third and writing a major 7 chord. I'm also considering writing the chord on the same root tone, but instead of minor, making it a dominant chord. It would have to be a sharp 9. And then I'm going to talk about one other reharmonization technique that we really didn't talk about in this video, but I've talked about in other videos. And that is when you have a dominant chord, you can expand it a bit by backing up on the circle of fifths. In other words, going up a fifth and leading into the chord. So in this case, it would be a G chord going to a C chord. Usually we try to make that a minor 7. But in this case, it wouldn't fit the melody too well, so I'm going to make it a G augmented 7 to C7 sharp 9. You can see that I've expanded the dominant chord by writing these two chords in a pair going around the circle of fifths. I can also write a chord that's a tritone OA, in this case a G flat 7. And I can do the same thing with that dominant chord. I can back up on the circle of fifths and write a chord fifth higher. That would be D flat minor 7 to G flat 7. Most commonly when I do this, I try to make it a minor 7 going to a dominant 7th chord, sort of like a 2-5. Okay, F minor 7, up a minor third to A flat major 7, down a major third to D flat major 7. Okay, we'll try to write a dominant chord on that same root tone of F, but that's not going to work very well with that B flat pitch, so I'm going to skip that instead and go right to the tritone. That's a B7 chord, but B7, the A, the 7th of that chord won't fit very well with a B flat, so we're going to have to make that a B major 7. The B flat 7 chord, we're going to go ahead and expand that by backing up on the circle of fifths, so this could be F minor 7, B flat 7. We'll do that with most of the dominant chords. We'll try that. We'll go and write a tritone OA, which would be E7. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll back up on the circle of fifths here. We could try a B minor 7 to E7. B minor 7 won't work very good with a B flat. It will have to be a B major 7 to E7. The next few chords are pretty straightforward, so we're going to skip ahead a bit. Here we have a minor 6 chord. Remember, we can go down a minor third and write the half diminished, or we can go up a perfect fourth and write the dominant 7. And since I've written a dominant 7th, I'm going to give myself the possibility of backing up on the circle of fifths, A flat minor 7 to D flat 7. Again, we're going to skip forward. The B7, we could break that up by going backwards on the circle of fifths. I'm looking at the notes here. I think an F sharp half diminished 7 would be best. Going to B7. We can go a tritone away from the B7, which is F7. Or we could break the F7 up by going backwards on the circle of fifths to the C. Got some difficult notes to try to accommodate here for a C chord. We've got an E flat, which is a minor third, and we have a C flat, which is a B, the major 7th. The only chord I can think of is a C minor with a major 7th going to F7. That would be the flat 9. I'm going to move the B flat 7 here so that I can more easily fit my reharmonization. So I can go ahead and break the B flat 7 by going backwards on the circle of fifths. Seems like I'm going to have to use an F7 flat 9 to B flat 7. I can use the tritone of the B flat, which would be E7. And then I can break that E7 up by going backwards on the circle of fifths. That would be B minor 7 to E7. I'm going to skip forward to the bridge here. I can see that I already reharmonized this a little bit in my first version, so I'm going to simplify that a little. In the original sheet music, we probably would have seen something just like an E flat 7 chord here. I'm going to take the E flat 7 and break it up by going backwards on the circle of fifths. So B flat minor 7, E flat 7. I'm going to consider using a tritone substitution here. That would be an A7. And then I'm going to break that up by going backwards on the circle of fifths. That would be a E, which is a little hard to harmonize with an E flat, maybe an E major 7 to A7. I'm going to try one more thing here that might work well for me. I can see that if I have a whole measure of an E flat 7, I could actually back up on the circle of fifths a few degrees. In other words, up a fifth, F, up a fifth to C. Let's start with that. C minor 7, F7, B flat minor 7, E flat 7. This is a little different kind of reharmonization that I've covered in a different video, where you can always take a dominant chord and actually extend it by backing up on the circle of fifths. So I'm just going right through the circle of fifths here. And I'm going to consider for each of these dominant chords, maybe I could use a tritone substitution for each of those. The A flat 6 chord, I can think of that like an A flat major 7. I can go up a major third and write a minor chord, or down a minor third, and write a minor chord. This is a diminished chord. I don't know if you remember what I said about fully diminished, so I can go up a step, a major second, and write a dominant with a flat 9. And then I can continue to write the 4 different dominant chords that would fit here. I go up a minor third there, D7, flat 9, up another minor third to F7, flat 9, or up another to A flat 7, flat 9. Always will be 4 possibilities when you see a fully diminished. Let's skip ahead to the last 3 measures of the bridge. Here, these chords are a bit unusual. If I look at some original lead sheets, I might see this the harmony a little bit different than this. So I'm going to simplify the original chords here. I'm going to say C7, F7, B flat 7. And for the last chord of the piece, I'm just going to say E flat. That'll help me to do the reharmonization. That chord would be very difficult to try to reharmonize because it's an unusual harmony. So I'm just backing up on the circle and writing some simpler chords here. And then I'll go ahead and reharmonize those. The C7 could be G minor 7 to C7, backed up on the circle of fifths. I can also write the tritone, which is F sharp 7, and I could back up on the circle of fifths. And that, of course, with that C natural will be a little difficult because the C sharp chord would have to be either C sharp major 7, or what I'll do here is write C sharp diminished. That also works with a major 7th interval. Okay, for the next part of this reharm, of course, it's much better if you play through all of these chords, but you'll have to trust that I did that and made a choice as to which chords I wanted to use. And then when I'm done showing you what I picked, I'll go back and play it for you. I'm not going to be afraid just to use some of the original chords. Sometimes it's nice just to start with a very straightforward harmonization and get things a little bit more complicated as you go along. From here, I'm going to move to some of these substitutes down here. Now I get to play this melody a number of times, so I can actually pick different sets of chords as I go through. So now I'll move to a different color, and the second time through, I think you get the idea. So let's go ahead from the beginning and see the chords that I picked, and let's see what it sounds like. The original chords are on the upper line, and the reharmonization are the bold black chords beneath. And remember, if you want to get a copy of this music with all of the voicings written in, go ahead and click on the link below, and that will bring you to a site where you can obtain that.